This video is a compilation of takeoffs and landings of my Bearhawk aircraft out in the backcountry. So I've got access to a number of airstrips fairly close to home, and some of them have a restriction on the number of landings that we can do each day, and some of them don't. Particularly the privately owned ones have no restrictions on them. So this first one is in a tight little valley. It requires a circling approach. You are quite close to the hill on the right base leg, and the turn on to finals has you rolling out on short finals and then touching down just after the swamp finishes. It's about a 280 metre strip, so that's around about 900 feet, and it has a gentle upslope with terrain all around it. There's no go round from this from the landing. So on each of these approaches I'm using no more than a medium turn for manoeuvring, and I'm trying to keep the descent rate very stable. Usually it's around 500 feet a minute, nothing excessive. The speed I'm using for the initial approach is usually up around 60 knots, and that allows me quite a margin for the increased loading should I need to steepen the turn up. However, once I'm on finals like here, I'm back to 50 knots. And as I go into the flare, it's touching down at around 42 knots, and within 1 second after touchdown, typically around 35 knots. Just easing the nose forward slightly after touchdown and keeping the tail wheel just off the ground there. This airstrip is at about 2,600 feet above sea level. The density altitude on the days that I videoed this was around 3,300 feet with fairly light winds. This next airstrip is 4,500 feet above sea level. The day that I videoed this, the density altitude was around 6,500 feet. It's quite a difficult airstrip to see, so I thought I'd show the takeoff first. It's hard to define it from the air. Taking off downhill here, it's not steep, but it does have a slope to it. This airstrip is up the top end of one of the Braided river valleys. Stunning area. It's on the river flats and there's no restriction to the number of takeoffs and landings that you can do in a day. And because of that, it's just the perfect playground for a morning. The slope on this is slightly uphill away from me, so I'm landing on the uphill slope with about a 3 to 5 knot tailwind on this one. It's about 250 meters usable. Normally it's longer, but the other end around the threshold is overgrown at the moment. There's a handy turning bay at the top end, which I've just turned the aircraft round in, and commencing the takeoff roll here. One of the factors that I was finding challenging on this particular day was having that 3 to 5 knot tailwind rather than a headwind. My landing roll was long on pretty much every landing. I was probably using at least 150 meters to come to a stop, and that was with a very light aircraft, so it wasn't ideal. So for this landing, I decided to change direction and accept a gentle downhill slope in return for about a 5 knot headwind. The landing roll was about the same. It really balanced out. But I did run into a little bit of a problem once I came to a stop, in that there is a turning bay at the top end of the strip where I'm about to touch down, but there isn't one at the other end. So at this point I'm taxiing very slowly and looking at the size of the rocks out to each side, and there are very large rocks here. You don't want to go off the airstrip at all. I get halfway through this turn and decide that continuing the turn is not a real smart idea. So I shut the engine down and turned it around by hand, which actually worked out quite well.